Hello, welcome to the Red Couch Podcast. I'm your host, Ainsley Krienselokker, and I am here joined by another journalist, another reporter for the Interrobang, Miss Briar Wilson.
Hello, I'm happy to be back.
I would clap, but it's too loud.
Too loud.
Probably.
We don't want to shock the viewers.
No. So, on Saturday, it's International Women's Day, March 8th, and we are both in the journalism program, which is a program with
I think there's
very few women.
Yeah, 4 women out of 15 of us in the program, I think.
So we're going to kind of be talking about that, talking about maybe why it's important for women to be in more male-dominated fields. Briar and I, especially, we write for the Interrobang, obviously. That's why we're here.
You guys should read our sections.
Yeah. We are the sports reporters, and sometimes that can get a little difficult.
For sure.
It
can also feel pretty cool, though.
You can feel very cool.
Our entire sports section is female-dominated, so that's a pretty cool thing.
Just the two
it's just
of
the
us.
2 of us. Anything sports you read?
But I have had a few interactions that maybe weren't the nicest.
The kindest.
Yeah, just because I looked maybe out of place. You know, I tend to dress, you can't tell today, but I tend to dress a little girly. So I was wearing all pink and I showed up to a soccer game and I just looked very out of place with all the jerseys and everything. And I had to go and, hey, I'm looking for this guy. I'm looking for this guy. The guy that I was supposed to interview ended up walking past me. We made direct eye contact and he walked right past me. Awesome. And I messaged him, I think a couple days before, just like confirming the interview and everything. And so he knew it was happening. He knew it was happening and he decided to ignore me. So I went up to the one and only person I knew on the team and I'm like, hey, can you help me with this? And he did. But he was very short, very quip with me. Might be because he lost the game. But it wasn't until I brought up my brothers who play soccer as well that he was more open to talking. And I've just found that to be a common occurrence. I don't know if you feel the same way.
No, for sure. I tend to, so obviously we've got tons of friends in our program and it's almost like when we kind of first started this, I had no problem like heading out to stories on my own and like kind of tackling everything on my own. I kind of like having all hands on deck and like micromanaging my own kind of story. But it got to a point where it was just like, not even the factor of being not treated. I think it also doesn't help that we're students. So to begin with on that level, we're not taken seriously because we're just not really in the field yet. We're not fully immersed yet. So there's that. And then I do think that being a woman does play a part in that. So I started bringing out one of our male coworkers, classmates to a lot of my stories and having him kind of help me out. And another big thing though, I kind of did that, like another reason I did that, I would say is because of the safety element. Like, we are going into a lot of random places, meeting up with people we've never met before, people that we found on social media, pretty much everything your parents tell you not to do, like, whenever you're a kid.
Going to bad neighborhoods alone.
Yeah, so it kind of got to a point where I was like, hey, like, I should probably be more careful about this. And that's not to say that our male counterparts aren't experiencing the same kind of fear or, you know.
Treatment.
Yeah, but I do think that there are a lot of... I also find that a lot of the, like being a woman in this industry, if you don't advocate for what you want to cover, if you're into politics or if you're into sports, those roles are most of the time automatically handed off to the men in the field because I don't think people intentionally have that bias against you. I don't think a lot of people mean to doubt you, but they just don't think you're interested unless you sit up and say, hey, I love politics or I love sports and I want to talk about that. And then like, when I stand up, I find a lot of people are like, oh, cool. Okay, perfect. Here you go.
Yeah, because I just covered the elections in Oxford, and I walk into the room, the only girl there. Everyone else running his campaign, all the other political leaders, the camera crew with me, all men. So you definitely feel out of place and uncomfortable. On top of it was my first time doing like live television stuff. No, I did not like that at all. But I did it. I think you just have to, thanks. I think you just have to get used to feeling uncomfortable as a journalist, but also as a female journalist, because there's going to be a lot of situations like that. And I know we were just talking about, we will not name names, but we were just talking about how there is very limited opportunities in our program. And I've gotten an opportunity, Briar here has gotten an opportunity, and there's been some comments thrown around about how the reason we got those opportunities is because we look the way we do, or because we are women and, you know, the old men will want to talk to us, or the young players will want to talk to us. Usually not the case, first of all, not the case. But second of all, it almost gives off the feeling that we didn't deserve it, that it wasn't something that we ourselves advocated for, which is a big part of the reason why we got our opportunities. I said, I like doing politics, I want to cover this, but people don't know that and kind of automatically assumed that I got the opportunity because of the way I look. And I know that's happened to you as well, especially because you covered a hockey game, was it?
Yeah, I did. I got to work with the London Gnats one time. That was a really awesome opportunity. I filled in for someone in a Western program who does it normally, and she's awesome. I haven't had the opportunity to meet her, but she's really awesome. And yeah, I was offered that opportunity, and that was a really scary experience too, because personally, I know, and again, we're talking about unraveling stigmas here, so I don't want to throw out a stigma, but I do think that the hockey environment is already one that can be kind of troublesome as a female. So heading into being in the locker room or being on the bench with these guys, and that was my first time kind of doing that too. And I think a big thing for me that I've noticed a lot as someone who works in sports is a lot of men assume that you do it because you think the players are cute and you want to talk to the players. Yeah. Chad, I didn't even look at your face. Like, I just like hockey.
Chad.
I just picked a random name. There's nobody named Chad on the team that I'm aware of. Nothing against any. If there is a Chad, I'm sorry. But
you know who you are.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think that like a lot of people assume like, oh, you're like, I remember not this past February Super Bowl, but the one in the year before, so 2024. I was watching with some of my friends, and it was the post game where Erin Andrews is on the field interviewing some players. They pan to a couple other female sports reporters interviewing the players, and obviously these women look phenomenal. And all of the men that I was in the room with were like, "Wow, like." Can you imagine what it would feel like just winning like the biggest game of your life, and then you get interviewed by like this hot blonde with like start making derogatory comments about, you know, that woman. And my first thought was just like, I can't believe that that's what they see this as.
Not listening to the interview at all.
At all. And I'm like, this woman has been watching the game from the sidelines, and actually Erin Andrews is very well known for her ability to form questions and her ability to watch the game and kind of take away moments and plays and kind of ask the questions that need to be asked. And it felt really discrediting. And like, obviously it wasn't anything towards me. Everyone in the room knew what I was studying, so like it was a little bit, thanks guys. But yeah, it's frustrating. And even looking like into politics, we're speaking from our own experience as women in journalism, but obviously there's so many other fields of work that women are in that feel this way. And even with like the recent US election, there were so many comments about how, like, you know, Kamala got to the position she was in because of, you know, assumptions that were made about how she got into that place because of her interactions with certain men, or a lot of just not nice assumptions that a lot of people had no proof of, were not true in any way. And it's just very unfortunate that these are the first things that come to people's minds when they see women in powerful positions. Why is the first thought not, wow, like she's really well spoken, or she's really she's smart, she's brilliant, she's intelligent? Like you don't hear that. That's not the first thing you hear.
I find that that plays a role in the music industry big time.
Oh, 100%.
Big time. And I feel like not a lot of, but some women play off of it in order to get as popular as they are.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think And again, our viewers, if they've watched a lot, they know that I'm a big Swiftie. So this doesn't come out of a place of, favoritism just because I love Taylor Swift. But there is a really popular interview of her talking to an interviewer, because she is a female in the music industry that has faced a lot of backlash. And a reason for that is because she writes a lot of songs about relationships or exes or whatever. But most people do.
Most songs are about that.
Yeah, so it's just funny to me that she is brutally attacked for having too many ex-boyfriends or, dating too much. And it's like, well, then you've got Kanye West, and that was a brutal comparison. I didn't mean to do that, but who sings about the same kind of topics. Yeah. And it's just like nobody points that out in an interview. But anyway, where I was going with this is that she did an interview once where an interviewer asked her, why do you feel like you get kind of most of that backlash? And she was like, she made a really good comment. She was like, if you have, a male and a woman and in the same position, they'll often say that the man is smart or, collected, but the woman would be called calculated or mischievous, or like it's never seen the same. And it was a really good interview, and I wish I could quote it word for word. But
yeah, bossy women are usually
another
you
word
can fill
as
in
well.
the blank. I won't say it.
Yeah, but if you're too nice, then you're obedient, and you don't step on the places that you should to make change, or you're not strong enough to do the role. Yeah. You're too sensitive.
Yeah, it's odd to think about, because growing up I always tried to never give myself an excuse for not being where I wanted to be, or it was just not something we talked about growing up. But then you get older and you really start to see things in a different light and a different perspective. And it's not that you should use it as a reason to not be somewhere or as an excuse, but it is, I think, an important thing to acknowledge and to recognize. There are, certain presumptions that we have that plays a role in our everyday life that we don't necessarily mean to, or it's not very apparent.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I also think that it's tough too, because when these conversations come up, and annually on International Women's Day, they do, it's sometimes some people get really triggered by it, because they're like, oh, a big thing I've heard is there's no International Men's Day. Yeah. And it's like,
or they'll be like, I don't act that way. I don't do that.
And not all men.
Say you did.
And exactly. It's not a target or a direct attack on men who don't play into that, part of society that believes these things. But I think that what a lot of people don't understand about the feminism movement as a whole is that it's not to pull down men, or it's not to say that men aren't as good as women. It's to put us on equal ground. I remember I saw this TikTok a while ago of this teacher who implemented this task for her students to do on the first day of class, where she picked a really tall student and then a really short student, and she hung a dollar bill in the ceiling. And she put the really tall student and the really short student against each other and told them to grab the dollar bill. Now, obviously, the taller student had much advantage and grabbed it right away, and the shorter students kind of left there jumping up and down trying to grab the dollar bill. And the lesson here was that she then went and grabbed a stool and gave the shorter student a stool, and everyone in the room, you're kind of thinking, well, now this student's getting help. But that stool just put that student on equal level as the tall student. And it didn't make it any less difficult for the tall student. It just made it more equal for the student who was shorter. And I know it's like a really random comparison, but I saw that video once and I never stopped thinking about it. And I think that's what a lot of people need to understand about these quote unquote woke movements that are happening. None of them are about overly empowering one group. It's the same with Black History Month or Pride Month. It's all about recognizing groups that for so long were felt like they were below. So now we're bringing them up to an equal place. And it's the same thing with International Women's Day.
I think it's really cool too. I don't know if you've ever seen all the TikToks of just the women that have done things. It feels very empowering. It's very cool. It's something that you never really saw a lot of growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Not to bring it back to books or movies, because in the last episode, the last episode I did.
Yes.
Georgia and I were talking about fantasy and these superhero movies and how it was always the men. And
Yeah.
I'm a big like visual person. Like I have a movie in my mind when I go to bed.
Yeah.
And it was always just hard to put yourself in those movies because it was always a man doing this and a man doing that. And now these books that have come out have put the woman at the front, and she's the one that does all this stuff. So I think it's a really cool cultural shift that we're seeing. And I don't know, I think it's very like empowering. It's very like, you don't have to be, as a female, you don't have to be this and do this. You have so many more doors open, so many more options. I think it's just a very cool time to be living.
Yeah, no, for
I wouldn't
sure.
want to be living like 100 years ago.
Yeah, no,
I would
for
not make
sure.
it too far in that world.
No, me neither. And I think it's also important to recognize, though, like these movements' goals are also not to say that you shouldn't fit the original stereotype.
sure.
If that's something you're passionate about or that's what you want to do, there's nothing wrong with that. If you enjoy doing the things that were stereotyped for years, like that doesn't make you any less of a powerful woman. I think that's another thing, is we've kind of attributed this movement to labeling these women who do step forward and do become these, like the big quotes always like boss babe or like things like that. Like women who are stepping into those roles are labeled as powerful. And that's not to diminish any woman who chooses not to step into that role. Ones who choose to embrace being a mother, who choose to embrace raising their children and staying from like not working. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think the movement as a whole is about empowering women as a whole, no matter what you want to do. It's giving you the choice.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that you can do both. Like it's not
100%.
one or the other. And I think that's something we're seeing a lot more nowadays.
Yeah, for sure.
My mom always said, you can do everything you want, just maybe not whenever you want. She didn't say that exactly, but it was something similar to that. So,
No, I totally
because
get it.
she was a stay-at-home mom when we were younger, and now she's like a paramedic, and she's going to school. She's going to college right now. We're going to graduate at the same time, actually. And yeah. And so, you know, she might have not been able to get her degree back then, but she's getting it now. And she's always wanted it. So she might not have gotten it when she wanted, but she was able to be a stay-at-home mom and do all this stuff and then focus on her career once we all grew up. So
Yeah, for sure. I was actually talking to one of my roommates about this today, and this kind of wanders off on a different topic, but someone said to me, like, time is always on your side. And I was so confused by that comment because I was like, I feel like time is always not on our side. I feel like we're always running out of time, or you're always trying to reach this deadline of life. You know, like you think elementary school and then middle school, high school, then you go to college, then you graduate, get a job, then you get married and have kids. You do not have to do that. You do not have to follow that timeline. You can do anything at any stage of your life. And one of my roommates was saying to me yesterday, she graduates this year and she heads to the police force, hopefully in the near future. And yes, fingers crossed, she's got it. I know she's got it. But she was like, Briar, like, this is the first time in my life that I have to choose what happens next. There's nothing laid out for me. And she's like, and like, what if I apply to this and I don't get in? Or what if I do this and that doesn't happen? Or what if I do this and I don't like where I am? And I was like, girl, it doesn't matter. Like, you have time to figure it out. It does, like, you don't have to follow a certain order of steps or a certain, you know, like, lifestyle. Like, it's up to you. And that's the coolest part about the stage of your life that you're at, is that you get to pick. And as daunting as that is, that's also really cool. And I said, if you don't like where you end up, then great, you change it. You get up, you try something new. And I think a lot of people forget that you have a choice. Every day, it's scary to make choices and changes. But if you don't like the way something's going, or you don't like the way your life is moving, you have the power to change it. And I know that's like kind of off topic, but I feel like it's relevant.
I'll tie it back in. I'm 21. My parents were married at 21.
Yeah. Okay.
My
so that's
grandparents
another
were
one.
married at 19. It's something that's so ingrained in us to be married young, have kids young, do all this stuff young. So when I turned 21, zero prospects. I shouldn't be saying that on here.
Singleness, no, it's an important topic. I feel like women struggle with that.
But yeah,
We can talk about that.
It was definitely like, it kind of hit me hard the day I turned 21. I'm like, I am nowhere near where my parents were, or where my mom was, or where my Beppa was. Like, she already had kids by now, like all this other stuff. And it almost makes you feel behind in a sense. But I think, again, it's a whole cultural shift. Like, people are marrying later. Women are putting their careers ahead of maybe finding
Settling
a
down,
husband and settling down. So You're not behind. You're just on your own timeline.
No, for sure. My mom and I were sitting at the dinner table the other night, and she goes, yeah, I just realized your dad was 20 when he met me, and I'm about to turn 20 in like 4 months. And that hit me. I was like, that's a little bit scary because, like, as you said, we've got 0 prospects out here. But I think it's important to remember, and like a big thing that I kind of was thinking about lately is like dating is huge. And whenever you're picking someone that you're gonna like spend the rest of your life with, like these are the people that are gonna help you through career changes, through having children if that's what you want, through losing your parents. Yeah. Like this isn't just somebody that like, oh, you like the color pink? That's great. I like the color pink. Like, this is, like, a life partner.
Important things, though.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is, like, you got to hope that if you want to live a life where you're career-focused, that you marry someone who supports that and wants the best for you and what you want. So I think it is a big cultural shift, but I think it's a good one. Like,
I agree.
In my opinion.
I agree. Oh, sorry. It's coming back. So I feel like when women get older and they are more focused on their career compared to when men get older and they're focused on the career, it's viewed like 2 different ways.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like I feel like when women get older and they're still single, it's viewed as, oh, they're the problem.
Yeah.
Whereas men, it's like, oh, they were just focused on their career and their own life. Yeah, he works hard.
Yeah. Like, what's that
about?
Like, no, I fully agree. I think that, and we are seeing like a huge shift of a lot of women who are choosing to be single. They don't want to marry and they don't want to have kids, and that's amazing if that's what you want. And if you do want to get married and have kids, then that's also amazing. Or maybe you want to get married and you don't want to have kids. Like whatever.
The choice is yours.
Yeah.
The possibilities are abundant. And
so are you.
And so are you on International Women's Day, March 8th.
Yes. Support all the women around you in your life. Women have been amazing contributors to the society that we live in today. And today or tomorrow, when this episode airs, it'll be tomorrow, is a day to recognize that.
And if you're watching after it, then
you still deserve to feel empowered.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Tough luck. Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day, guys. And thank you, Briar, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You can watch any episode of our podcast wherever you get yours. I'm your host, Ainsley Krienselokker. Have a great International Women's Day and a great rest of your week.